So here's the thing. Predator is a movie very near and dear to my heart. As the first movie I ever watched that even came close to being a horror flick, Predator will always mean a lot to me, and after rewatching it recently, I find that it holds up as a nearly perfect movie. But after watching it, I had a morbid curiosity about me. I wanted to explore the sequels, those being 1990's Predator 2, 2010's Predators, and 2018's The Predator, to see which holds up as the true sequel to the 1987 classic. Seeing as how this series seems to be in what I like to call the Terminator loop, where every movie after 2 is striving to be the true T3, I think it'll be fun to examine the Predator sequels and see if maybe we hit something truly great along the way. Maybe this franchise found the aliens to its alien and just rebooted before we knew it. So come along with me on this Predospective to see which one of the Predator sequels is stronger than Arnie, and which are just ugly motherfuckers.
What the hell are you?
I am Optimus Prime.
So, before we look at the sequels, we need to do a quick stop with the original to understand what makes it work. Now, there's a lot of things that make this movie work. Honestly, aside from some poorly aged effects, some often flat visuals, and some jokes that don't age super well, this movie is, as I said earlier, damn near perfect. The Predator himself has never looked better, the cinematography can be pretty interesting at times, the score by Avengers and Back to the Future composer Alan Silvestri strikes the perfect balance between cheesy and intense. Shooting almost everything on location helps the movie feel alive, and this is one of the very few movies where I felt that Arnold Schwarzenegger was, acting.
He's using the trees.
But the two main things that make this movie work are, obviously, the titular Predator and the team he hunts. Everything about the Pred in this movie is great. The design, the costume, the weapons, the sound design, the physical performance by Kevin Peter Hall, who later came back as the Predator in Predator 2, the vocal performance by Peter Cullen, better known as Eeyore and fucking Optimus Prime, and honestly, the vibe of the Predator as a monster with a personality, with goals beyond simply kill everything. In a world that had already seen 2 Alien movies come and go, it's refreshing to see an alien that feels like more than just another monster. The cast of this movie also plays a big part in that. Apollo and the Terminator are obviously the standouts, but Billy, Blaine, Poncho, Hawkins, and Mac all help round out this cast of gung-ho action heroes that have distinct personalities. Everyone will come away from Predator with their different favorite character, and that says a lot. Hell, the first act of this movie is basically one sort of self-contained 80s action flick, with twists, betrayal, and some of Arnold's best one-liners.
Stick around. Knock, knock.
Stretch it out over 2 hours and it'd be a fun, good Schwarzenegger action movie. But then they said, nah, let's throw this alien fucking dreads in there. It all comes down to the blend of these two elements, the arrogant, cocky team of soldiers and the cunning, physically superior Predator. The Predator feels like a threat, but it never feels insurmountable. This franchise lives and dies by 7 words.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
The Predator can be stopped, it's just really hard. My favorite scene is when they just empty their guns into the jungle, because for as awesome as these guys are, they've never faced something as tough as this, as smart as this, or as ruthless as this. But that doesn't mean it's impossible. In the end, it basically does take Arnold fist-fighting the damn thing for it to die. And honestly, this movie kind of begs for a sequel. So many avenues you can explore, from the origins and nature of the Predator's race, to the effects of being the sole survivor of your team after an alien hunter Mortal Kombat's all of them. And Predator 2 kind of does one of those things.
You are one ugly mother.
Well, I'm a mushroom cloud laying motherfucker.
So pretty much everything I like about Predator 2 comes from the Pred itself. This movie does the most for the Predator's arsenal and lore overall. The first movie's arsenal of weapons, gadgets, and tricks is pretty tame, all things considered. You got the wrist blades, thermal vision, the plasma caster, camouflage, a med kit, the wrist bomb, and the voice mimicking. In this one, however, we get a major upgrade. The City Hunter comes strapped with 2 of my favorite Yautja weapons, the retractable spear known as the Combo Stick, and the remote control smart disc. And that's nothing to say of the new and improved med kit, the gun that shoots a razor-thin net that constricts until it kills you or is cut off by someone else, the wrist-mounted thermal grenade launcher, the rebreather for air intake if the biomass gets destroyed or lost, and of course, the massive cloaking spaceship that the Predator arrives in. The glimpses into Yautja culture and their extensive honor code help this movie feel like a true sequel, showing us that predators won't kill pregnant women, will respect a worthy foe's victory, and of course, that they've been at this for a long time. However, if I stopped at just how Predator 2 improved on the lore of the titular monster, you might think that this is the perfect sequel. I assure you, it is not. Unfortunately, the plot of Predator 2 holds it back a great deal. The premise for this one is admittedly kind of compelling. In the year 1997, this movie came out in 1990. A young, hungry predator pulls up to the crime-ridden streets of Los Angeles, aiming to make the warring gangs into his new game and the City of Angels his new hunting grounds. Fun fact, for this video, I watched all these movies with my girlfriend, and she got a call from her dad while we were watching Predator 2, and he, for some godforsaken reason, actually remembered the tagline for the movie is, and I quote, "He's in town with a few days to kill." That tagline is so stupid and ridiculous that it actually starts doing donuts in the IKEA parking lot and spins all the way back around to being the greatest tagline of all time. Regardless, the plot is paper-thin and truly falls apart fast. It becomes a nearly comedically repetitive slog of Danny Glover just investigating gang murders and avoiding the Predator until the final act. Where the first movie had an incredibly strong and memorable cast of human characters, the only memorable ones of the bunch in this one are Danny Glover, since you can't go wrong with Danny Glover as a cop, Gary Busey, since he's terrible, and Adam Baldwin, who only stuck out to me because I couldn't stop calling him Agent Casey. This movie does introduce one fun new addition on the human side, and that's the OWLF, the Otherworldly Life Forms Program, a secret organization tasked with hunting down and capturing predators with the goal of studying their biology and weaponry. Aside from them, there's nothing truly memorable about the human cast, and the plot is so shallow that it's barely worth discussing. On to the next game, I suppose.
I like your cut, G.
Okay, Predators is the best step in the right direction the series could have taken. After 20 years with no representation on the big screen, as long as we're all still ignoring the Alien vs. Predator movies, Predators sought to reinvigorate the classic franchise with my favorite pitch for the series so far. In this one, it really all comes down to the cast. There's some relative star power in here. We got Machete, Mahershala Ali, Adrian Brody, Walton Goggins, Alice Braga, fucking Lawrence Fishburne. But why are they all there? Well, they're all killers, gang members, mercenaries, soldiers, and the like. On Earth, they're all predators. Roll credits. On this alien planet, used by the Yautja as a game preserve, they've been made into prey. Big game, the best hunt. This movie takes its sweet-ass time revealing the predators, much in the way the original did. Thankfully, it uses that time wisely, developing the characters to a point where we understand who they are and how they'll react to the situation. They also develop a pretty good mystery at the start, and if you go into this movie blind, I could see you absolutely being blindsided by the revelation that this movie is set entirely on an alien planet. The thematic storytelling is at its finest in this installment, and honestly approaches alien levels of pushing its themes through narrative and monsters. By being predators, killers, the monsters of our world, is their humanity truly lost? Are the predators of our world beyond redemption? Or is their based instinct to hunt and kill the only thing that matters in the end?
You know, man, if we ever make it home, I'm gonna rape so many fine bitches.
I love that the movie took its time to ask these questions about human nature. A good movie can just be a good movie, but when it puts forth the effort to explore concepts about human nature that only it could uniquely tackle, I care. If I had to list complaints about this movie, it's actually all the Predator stuff. Before I start bitching about the lack of good Predator content in this movie, I will say that the sword fight between the Predator, known as the Falconer, and the Yakuza member they kidnap is genuinely awesome as fuck. I love it when movies incorporate the cinematic language of old westerns and samurai cinema to make gunfights and sword fights feel even more epic, and this fight fucking delivers. But outside of that, the Predators in this movie don't feel like as much of a threat as they could be. They mostly feel absent from the movie, and a good chunk of time is dedicated to the characters fighting amongst each other, chilling with Lawrence Fishburne, and shooting at these horrifying hound things, which are actually pretty cool. Honestly, the only thing I truly dislike is the stuff that centers around the alpha predators. The design is stupid, and the idea behind this predator race war just doesn't work for me. I don't think there needs to be a race war, there could just be warring factions. Ultimately, the predators in Predators feel like an afterthought, and that's not because they're out and out bad, but because all the human stuff is so good. So Predators is kind of the opposite of Predator 2 in a way. Where that movie had lame human shit and amazing Predator shit, the additions to Predator lore in Predators are either stupid, meaningless, or both, and the human characters are the best in the franchise. Unfortunately, this is where Predator sequels end, and it doesn't seem that well. Oh, god damn it!
Put that back on!
Before I reach into this movie's back and rip out its spine to play jump rope with it, I feel like I should try and be nice to the Predator first. So, I'm gonna lead with positive things, and then I will unleash my unbridled rage. So, there's a big emphasis in this movie on explaining certain parts of Predator lore, and while I don't like all of it, I do like the canonization of the Yautja being referred to as predators. And the acknowledgement that they technically aren't predators, they're hunters, stands out as a fun line.
Why do you call it the predator?
You know, the data suggests that it tracks its prey, exploits weakness, seems to, well, enjoy it.
A predator kills its prey to survive. I mean, what you're describing is more like a bass fisherman.
Well, we took a vote. Predators cooler, right? Fuck yeah.
Some of the comedy in this movie is actually kind of funny. Specifically, like all of Keegan-Michael Key's lines. He's a funny dude, so whatever. Some of the visual effects are kind of cool. The design of the biomask for the fugitive predator is also cool. The concept, on paper, of exploring mental illness and disability and how that affects people through the lens of fighting fucking aliens is compelling, and it feels like a natural progression of the theme set up in Predators. I like the scene where the fugitive predator fights through the OWLF lab. The score by Henry Jackman is actually noteworthy for how good it is, but, you know, it's Henry Jackman, so obviously. And that's about it. Everything else, well, I'd say may God have mercy, but I think God sat this one out. The cast is painfully unmemorable, save for a few characters. I mostly remember them by the actors, who are admittedly mostly pretty solid. We got Boyd Holbrook, Thomas Jane, Olivia Munn, and the aforementioned Keegan-Michael Key, among others. The problem is that all these characters are fucking useless. Think back to Predators. Sure, you had characters like Machete and Mahershala, but they were there to die in the first act to set up stakes. They were given little character, but still served a purpose. No named character in this movie dies past the first 10 minutes, right up until the final act, so there's really no sense of stakes. And really, stakes are the least of this movie's problems. As I said earlier, I like what this movie attempts to do thematically. The way my friend Gwen, goes up to her by the way, put it is that the cast of this movie is basically what if the team from the first movie, but they already snapped. Unfortunately, this is diluted by the fact that none of these characters' problems are taken seriously. Thomas Jane has Tourette's, use it for a punchline. Trevante Rhodes has suicidal depression, we'll have him jump into a turbine in the final act. And of course, the big one. Jacob Tremblay plays the son of Boyd Holbrook's character, and he has autism. Admittedly, I am very critical of media portrayals of children with autism. This is partly due to the fact that my mother used to work with special needs children, and so a large part of my life was defined by her interactions with them. Additionally, a good percentage of my friends in, life have been high-functioning autistic, so there's that. And honestly, Tremblay does a really good job with the role, and the writing in the first act is a realistic, honest representation of some of the ups and downs of autism. I was really hoping that he'd be the one character in the movie treated with respect, outside of a few R-word jokes. I was painfully wrong. Let's put a pin in that and talk about the plot. The plot of this movie, even on paper, sounds stupid. A fugitive predator lands on Earth and gets drugged and captured by the OWLF, so now they can finally do that predator vivisection they've wanted to do. Side note, why is Sterling K. Brown here? The series isn't like Alien, where a human villain is necessary. The predators, on their own, are very intelligent. They can be competent villains on their own. So anyways, they find out that the fugitive predator, whose face looks like shit, has human DNA mixed in with his own, and eventually we come to find out that this movie wants to explain bits of predator lore that don't need explaining. Why do they have dreadlocks? Well, they're sensory receptors, akin to whiskers. Why they rip spines out? Well, it turns out that they've been taking the genetic coding of their prey and using it to hybridize themselves with the best genetic traits possible to make Super Predator. And God, I hate the Super Predator. All of its CG is awful. The design is terrible. Bigger does not mean better, and above all, it should not have the ability to grow armor. I said earlier that this franchise lives and dies by 7 words.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
The vulnerability of the Predator is essential, and it separates it from something like the Xenomorph, which is designed in a way that you're not supposed to be able to kill it by brute force, and you have to outsmart it. Setting up the Pred's vulnerability lets you feel like there's a chance that Dutch and his team can beat it, and it makes it all the more satisfying when he does. The Super Predator feels invincible from moment 1, so even the characters feel like they can't beat it, so it just comes off as stupid as they do. So back to the plot, the Super Predator turns out to be after the autistic kid because he was able to hack Yautja technology, and that makes him a superior life form to everyone else present, and like, what? How did no one realize how insanely tone-deaf and insensitive and ignorant that is? Yes, being autistic means that you have some intellectual advantages, but that does not even come close to understanding the full plight of people with autism and all of the social and physical impacts that autism has. What the fuck is this movie? And to cap it off, not only is this movie ableist as hell and weirdly kind of racist, it is sexist as fuck! There are 2 female characters in this movie, which isn't anything new, as all the previous movies had only 1 important female character each, but holy shit, it treats both of them like shit! Yvonne Strahovski is fucking wasted, but at the very least she gives us 2/3 of the Chuck trio in the Predator franchise. Actually, Zach Levi would be a pretty good cast for a possible sequel, but she's useless, and only adds to a problem that's cemented by Olivia Munn's character. This movie has no respect for the input of women. Both of these characters are disarmed by Boyd Holbrook when they are reasonably defending themselves. Munn's character is constantly being disregarded or ignored, which sucks because she's the best character in the movie. She actually gets predators, she's competent, and she deals with the situation rationally and not like it's all a fucking joke. But no, she has to strip down and give her fucking Disney eyes to the predator so that she doesn't get killed. God, what a mess. Oh, and then they try and sequel bait us with the fact that the fugitive predator was actually trying to help us because global warming means that the predators are coming here more frequently because they want to get all the good spines before they're gone and then kill everyone. So he gives us this Predator War Machine suit, and I'm done talking about this movie. Fuck! And for those keeping track, I haven't even mentioned that this movie was written and directed by Shane Black. Yes, that Shane Black. Shane Black, who was in the original movie. So, Predator 2, bad movie, good Predator movie. Predators, good movie, bad Predator movie. The Predator is everything wrong with franchise filmmaking and should be a shining example of how not to make a movie, let alone a decent Predator movie. Fuck, man, I can't end this video on this dumpster fire of a sequel. But there aren't any other... Wait, what's that? There, in the trees. It's Predator Hunting Grounds, bitch!
We got a #1 victory royale. Yeah, Fortnite, we about to get down. 10 kills on the board right now. Just wiped out Tomato Town. The French just got down. I revived him, now our heads are bound. Now we're in defensive box straight. Look at the back of the box. Shooting, take me to your Xbox to play Fortnite today. You can name me the Pussy Butter, but not Lily. Kinda really love to chill just with you. We can be pro Fortnite gamers. He said.
So yeah, fuck all the movies. This is the best Predator sequel. Predator Hunting Grounds is a 2020 video game made by IllFonic, the team behind the deeply flawed but still fun as hell Friday the 13th game. Hunting Grounds shares a lot of ideas and mechanics with its predecessor, but where Friday was about escaping Jason and you had to try and kill him only as an elaborately designed last resort, Predator actually encourages you to kill the villain, and it makes it a viable option for success. In case you're unfamiliar, the gameplay is a blend between a classic first-person shooter and an asymmetrical horror game, with 4 players as the members of an elite fire team called Voodoo 1, and the 5th player hunting him as the Predator. Basically, it's like Dead by Daylight, but if everyone had machine guns. So, when you're playing as the fire team, you're just kind of running around killing bots and completing objectives, and these missions actually have some good variety though. Sometimes you're hunting down drug lords and destroying meth labs, but other times you're actually doing Predator-related shit, like destroying a Pred corpse that an enemy captured, or stealing some plundered Pred tech. All the while, you're being hunted by a Predator with a deadly arsenal. I want to talk about the customization in this game, and why it helps make it a good sequel. The Fireteam members are pretty devoid of personality, as all their dialogues consists of stupid one-liners and what the game designers would call barks, which are audible cues for other players to understand what's going on. So you might not see the Predator, but if it's on your screen, the character might say something like, "What the fuck is that?" The thing that does give your character personality is visual customization, as you can change outfits, hats, helmets, glasses, and other items to suit your desired look. And naturally, you can switch your guns around to suit your playstyle, as well as perks and different gadgets. I like that a lot of this stuff is actually designed to be anti-Predator, or is taken from their tech, like the plasma rifle, the modified grenade launcher that shoots motion detectors, EMPs and mines that take out their cloaks, or the thermal and audio decoys that can throw off a Predator, which are incredibly useful. In gameplay, you can even mud up to avoid thermal detection, and it works pretty well. Shit, if you throw out a smoke grenade and thermal decoy while you're mudded, you're basically invisible, especially if you have the class where you play as an OWLF operative who wears the thermal suits like the one in Predator 2. The Predator also has a good amount of customization, ranging from the masks, war paint, armor, skin patterns. Hell, you can even customize the fucking Pred locks. And you can come strapped with iconic weapons and gadgets like the combo stick, smart disc, bear traps, wrist launcher, the net gun, and of course, the med kit. Every Predator movie needs the med kit. They even introduce a bunch of new shit like the sickle, the elder sword, a bow, an axe, a fucking war club, a fucking katana.
Her sword traps the souls of its victims.
And those last few are actually important, as this game adds important stuff to Predator lore. Since we know they've been doing this for thousands of years, it stands to reason that they would adopt some elements of other cultures. So we get a samurai Predator, a Viking Predator, a Valkyrie Predator. This is a really cool addition to the lore, and it makes perfect sense. Unlike Super Predators. So we nailed the Predator in this game, but what about the team? I mentioned that customization adds personality, but what about a story? Hunting Grounds is strictly multiplayer, so there's not much to be had outside of collectible voice tapes, but there is one thing.
I'm not dead yet. My name is Dutch, and this is my story.
Dutch is back. Not just the playable 1987 version of him. Hunting Grounds posits an alternate future for the character. The year is 2025, and Dutch has spent the last 38 years becoming the ultimate Predator hunter. His design really reflects that, with his scarred face, a biomask for a pauldron, a Yautja wrist computer, and a knife that's made from the wrist blade of a Pred he killed. This expands out to this game's original character, Dante Jefferson, nicknamed Beast Mode. That's both a nod to the actor who plays him, running back Marshawn Lynch, and to his story. The story for Dante is that he was on a mission in Thailand that went terribly wrong, leading to the death of his whole team. Fortunately, he was able to kill the Predator responsible with the B-34ST rocket launcher, or Beast launcher. After debriefing, he was greeted by Dutch, who enlisted him into his team of Predator killers. Honestly, this would be a good premise for a movie. Imagine something along the lines of Justice League, with Dutch as the Batman figure, gathering members for a team to start actively hunting Predators rather than reactively taking them down. I joked, but I do think Zach Levi would be awesome in this type of role. He's a big, beefy dude, kind of like Arnold, but he also displays his goofy, sensitive side in all of his roles. He could kind of be like Drax, where he's both the stereotypical action hero and a deconstruction of the trope. And as stupid as the Predator is, yeah, we could even bring back Boyd Holbrook and give Dutch the Predator killer armor. And hey, fun fact, while I was editing this video, because editing it is just taking a long time and taking a lot out of me, they actually added Alice Braga, aka Isabel from Predators, as a playable character, and they gave her a really similar story to what they did for Dutch, and a similar design where she's wearing like bits and pieces of Predator armor, like she's got like the fishnets on there, and the jaw from the Berserker Predator's helmet, and they gave her this story where she actually does get off the Predator planet to try and hunt down Predators. So in this theoretical like movie that I just pitched, where you have Zach Levi and Boyd Holbrook and Arnold Schwarzenegger, I think it would be super fun if you got Alice Braga and Adrian Brody back to try and kind of have one from every movie. Like Danny Glover is still around, and he's an older fellow now. But I do think it would be fun if you got like the main characters of all the past Predator movies together into one team, plus like 1 or 2 new guys, including Zach Levi, because I love Zach Levi, to basically be like the Predator hunting Avengers or like Justice League. So yeah, back to the scripted stuff. So yeah, Hunting Grounds has a good premise if you're looking for it. And that, combined with the solid representation of the Predator, means that Predator Hunting Grounds is the best Predator sequel.
It is Wednesday, my dudes.
So what have we learned today, children? What's the grand takeaway here? That no matter what failings your movie sequels have, no matter where they succeed or drop the ball, completely unrelated video game tie-ins are going to do it better, so fuck you.